Hail Ogsal, my tribe, and welcome to the Modern Barbarian podcast. Today, I want to bring a little history to light and see if it feels familiar to you. Those who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. Rome is an excellent case study of how food and entertainment are used to control a population while a ruling class does whatever it wants to do. As long as people are fed and entertained, they become apathetic and do not care what is happening around them. I believe that as our system is even more insidious than the ancient Roman one. We are given the illusion of free choice through identity politics. Democrat versus Republican have become the gladiator games of the day. For those who don't partake in politics, we have the modern Circus Maximus, professional sports, and Hollywood movies. The welfare state and the Roman equivalent. Gaius Gracchus, back in early Roman days, actually it would have been the late Roman days, towards the fall of the empire, wrote something called the Grain Law, which was the first form of recorded welfare. The Roman welfare system from this grain law established state granaries to hold surplus grains. They then sold these grains to the public at a fixed price that was much lower than the free market price. And the government bought the grain at market price-ish and sold it at that much lower price. So in order to make this work, they were taking their tax dollars from all the citizens. They were buying up all this grain from the farmers at or below market price. Realistically, they were forcing the farmers to sell it at a lower price than they could have gotten in the free market. But they were using tax dollars to buy grain to put in the granaries, and then selling that grain at a lower cost than what they paid for it, taking a loss on the grain as a form of welfare to help feed the population. Now, why would they do this? Well, because a population who is not being properly fed starts to revolt and commit crime. Look at what we have going on right now. You see videos all over the internet of people going to supermarkets and filling grocery carts full of meat and then running out to their car, stuffing it in the trunk as fast as they can while wearing their COVID mask and some sunglasses so they're harder to identify, and hightailing it out of there, right? Stealing food. Why? Because the economy is in such poor shape that the food is too expensive for the people to eat. So what are we doing about it? Welfare, right? This is what they do. They use welfare to control the population. You have to vote for the people that are giving you money, because if you don't vote for the people that are giving you money, you think you will starve without their help. Our modern welfare system is the equivalent of Gaius Gracchus's grain law. Nearly a quarter of the American population is currently on welfare. Right now, as of today, 25% of the population, roughly, is on the welfare system in some way, shape, fashion, or form. California and New York have the highest welfare expenditures in the country. No surprise there. Nearly a quarter of the country is on Medicaid. This does not include the Medicare program for the elderly. This is just the government paying medical bills for people that are of the age that could work. This is just Medicaid, right? Nothing to do with Medicare. 25% of the country is on Medicaid. 51% of all immigrant households are on welfare in this country right now. Every state in the union, but Wyoming, spends more than $1 billion a year on welfare. If you take that across 50 states, that's more than $50 billion a year spent just on the welfare system. That is over 6% of the total budget of the country is spent on welfare. Now, keep in mind, this is not a balanced budget. The bloated, inflated, full of debt thing that we call a budget in this country, where we are going trillions of dollars in debt at a rate that is so high we will never pay it off, still 6% of that goes into nothing but the welfare state. They spend $6.5 trillion a year. So the country spends about $390 billion a year on welfare as a whole. between state welfare and federal welfare. We spend $390 billion a year on the welfare system. So, what is the government trying to buy for their $390 billion? And don't get me wrong, both sides are spending it, and both sides are buying something for it. So what do the Democrats think they're buying? Let's start there. Those in power know that a hungry population is more likely to revolt. Look at the French Revolution. They know that hungry people are angry people. They also know that fat people are far less dangerous than those who take care of themselves. So they use the welfare system to push cheap, high-calorie, over-processed food on the masses, especially those on the welfare, and they do this to sedate the population. Look at the way the standard diet in America is now. It's fucking macaroni and cheese that comes out of a box, or dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, or fucking fast food, right? They're pushing this nasty, over-processed, nearly poisonous crap on the country to make you oversized. They want you to be too big to fight back. They need you fat and lethargic. They use the welfare system to push that shit on people, and then they push that shit in other ways outside of the welfare system to get everybody else to use it. They don't want you in good shape. They want you on your couch, watching fucking TV, eating junk food, so that you don't see what's going on, and even if you do, you don't have the ability to fight back. They're also buying votes for their money. One half of the current system relies on the votes of the impoverished to stay in power. That is the Democrat side. In order to get those votes, they have to purchase them with government services. The people that vote Democrat are voting for government services. They know that they either need them to survive, or they have been tricked into believing that people will die without them, and that they are these bleeding heart, open, nothing can ever be bad in the world everywhere, and we must take money from everybody and fix every problem that ever occurs, right? These are the votes that they're buying. The people that think like that, or the people that have to have it. People that have figured out they can vote themselves money from the coffers that's taken from all to make their lives easier, vote for Democrats. Then you have the people that depend on government assistance. These people are not likely to vote against the people that are giving them more free stuff. It's not going to happen. They don't care what it costs, because it doesn't cost them anything. There is no cost to them. It's taken the surplus of wealth from the people that are able to produce a surplus and redistributing it to the people that make nothing. It costs people like us everything, and people like them nothing. They don't care what it costs because it doesn't cost them anything. The more they give out and the more people they give it to, the more votes they get. That's why you see the continuous spread of this cancerous system. That's why it's not what it was supposed to be, a short-term system to help those in deep need, right? I'm not against a short-term system to help those that are in deep need. Those that fall on real hard times and need some help for a few weeks, few months, whatever it is, while they get their feet back under them, that's one thing. That's entirely different than this bloated, nasty system that is out there to buy votes right now. That is all it's for. They take your money and they use it to buy votes so that they can stay in power because they hate you, and they can, and then they will take your rights. That's the goal. So, let's take a look at some charts here that I've got. I'll show these on the video, and I will have links to them in the show notes for those of you listening to this in the podcast version. First thing, let's look at the percentage change in amounts spent in fiscal years 1977 to 2020, right? And these are the biggest of the public systems. And you will notice that all of them are growing, but welfare has grown in the highest percentage of any of the public systems, right? More than corrections, more than higher education, more than police, more than education, like primary education, more than highways and roads, or health and hospitals, or housing and community development. Let's take a look here. If you guys can see that on this video. Yes, you can. That yellow line, right there, that's how fast welfare has progressed since 1977, trumping everything else on the chart. It has grown 450% in the last 43 years. Is that right? 23, 20, yes, 43 years. I did the math right. Good. 43 years, 450%. That's more than 10% growth per year on average. That money's got to come from somewhere. It's coming out of your pockets. What do they need it for? To buy more votes. Now then, let's take a look at something else that goes directly along with that. The red lines are percentage of Republican votes. The blue lines are percentage of Democrat votes in the popular vote. So let's take a look at that, right? And then right here is about 1980. Okay? Where my finger is. All the way up to the 2020 line. And notice that as the percentage spent on welfare increases, the percentage by which Democrats win the popular vote increases. This is one of the reasons that we're a republic and that we don't elect our offices on the public vote. And this is one of the reasons that the Democrats are pushing the public vote on you, or the popular vote on you, so hard instead of the Electoral College. Because they know they have bought enough people from the cities with their welfare system that we would never again win an election if they went to a pure popular vote election. There's too many people sucking the government tit that are willing to vote for them that cannot afford to vote against them, right? That we would never win again. So since welfare spending has increased over 450% since 1983, with the massive influx really starting in 1992, right? It tapered off a little bit at 1992, or until 1992, and then it starts really shooting up in the early 90s. And Democrats have won the popular vote in the country 7 out of 8 elections since 1992. Since the massive jump in spending that happened in 1992, which, look at the little chart here. See that jump right there? 1992. Boom. Okay? They won that popular vote. And they've kept that trend going ever since, and they've won 7 out of 8 popular votes since that time. Now, this is not an in-depth study. I'm not doing full statistical analysis here. And in statistics, a correlation does not equal causation. But this is a very strong indicator of what's going on. A subset of the people in the country have found out that they can vote themselves money from the country's coffers and are doing so with a vengeance. And they're using the Democrat system to do that. The Democrats figure that out, and they are using these people to stay in power so that they can steal your rights and force you to be on the government assistance programs because you can't take care of yourself anymore. And that's what they want. They want control over everything. So that's what Democrats are buying with their portion of the $390 billion they spend on welfare. But what about the other side? This is what nobody likes to talk about. What are the Republicans getting out of it? And why, when they are in power, are they not fixing it? Because they are letting it happen too. Maybe spending it at a slower rate or increasing it at a slower rate, but they are still increasing it and they're still using the system. So why are they using it? Well, being just as bad, they have traded away our privacy for votes. Just look at the Patriot Act. Under the Patriot Act, the FBI can secretly conduct a physical search or wiretap on an American citizen to obtain evidence without crimes being committed, proving probable cause, as the Fourth Amendment explicitly requires. They can claim terrorism and bypass all your rights due to the Patriot Act. And then they could take what they found and say, ha, look, we can now prove that he's a terrorist because he has fucking gunpowder, because he's a reloader, or he owns too many guns than we think he should, or he has guns and body armor and has taken rifle training. He must be a terrorist. Look at what we found, right? That comes from the Patriot Act. That was your Republican friends. The Republicans also use war to enrich themselves and their lobbyist buddies, sending our children off to die in foreign countries to defend the human rights of some people we have never met and don't give two shits about. But a good war leads to votes. The last times Republicans One, a popular vote was in 2004. The country wanted a Republican in charge after the attacks of 9/11. We stayed at war with terror for nearly 20 years. Officially, that was from September 14th of 2001 to August 30th of 2021. We stayed at war even with the Democrats in office, as leaving the war would have been bad for votes and business, but the Republicans count on it more. And new wars lead to even more votes for the Republicans. So be on the lookout for the next big war that the Americans will have to fight, so we can save some more people who want to kill us from some other people who want to kill us, so that we have somebody to fight, so that we'll vote for a Republican. Think about that. Have we gone to war for any worthwhile cause, for any country that actually liked us in the last 50 years? No. We fly to the other side of the world to fight communism or terrorism or what else ever it is, so that a bunch of people that don't like us will let us go fight their war for them against a bunch of other people that don't like us, so that we can die instead of they die to get what they want. Fuck that shit. That's what the Republicans are doing with the money. They're going off to war so that we'll vote for them because we vote Republican heavily in a time of war. Neither one of these are the good guys. The entire system is against you. The whole damn thing's rigged, and we all know it. And if you don't know it, it's time you woke up and started knowing it. Now then, we talked about their welfare system and the historical equivalent of Rome. Let's look at some of the other ways that they are using their systems to keep you docile and placated so that you won't look at what they're doing and won't get mad at the government. Identity politics. The modern gladiators. The history. In Rome, there were gladiator schools. And these were used to train different types of gladiators, and then they would fight in the Colosseum. One was the ludus matutinus. The bestiari gladiators were trained in specific schools who specialized in fighting wild and exotic beasts. The schools were called the Scholae Bestiarium, or the Bestiariums. The bestiary schools in ancient Rome were called the ludus matutinus, which was a building situated adjacent to the Roman Colosseum, which was established by Emperor Domitian, I think is how you pronounce that. And that school is derived from the name of that school is derived from the Latin word matutinus, meaning of the morning, which is when the animal or wild beast fights were scheduled. The types of gladiators who trained in this school were the bestiari and the venatores. So you had beast fighters and wild animal hunters, is how that translates. Then the other types of schools in Rome. You had the ludus gallicus, and it was the smallest of gladiator schools and specialized in training gladiators who were heavily armored, which focused on the training of the first of the Gallus gladiators and then incorporated the Samnite gladiators. The other heavily armed types of gladiators, such as the Murmillos and the Hoplomachai, soon followed. Then you had the ludus Dacicus, and the inhabitants of Dacia are generally considered as belonging to the Thracian nations. The Thrace or Thracian gladiators and the Democritus gladiators used a sword called a Sika, which was a short curved sword with a blade of about 16 to 18 inches long. It was the most common type of Dacian sword. The Dacian school was built near the baths of Trajan in Rome. Right? And then your last one was the ludus magnus. This was the biggest of all the gladiator schools in Rome. It was therefore seemed reasonable to assume that the gladiators who trained here needed the greatest amount of space. This type of gladiator would be the gladiator who used the chariots, rode on horseback, or used weapons such as the spear, the net, or the lariat. The names of these fighters were as follows. The equus was the horseback gladiator. The esidari was the war chariot gladiator. Then you had the laciares, which were the lasso fighters, the retiari, which were the net fighters, and the velites, which fought in groups with spears. Now, these three state-owned schools were pitted against each other in constant competition. This wasn't always the way. Originally, the schools were private. Toward the end, however, As the importance of the bread and circuses became all too apparent to the emperors, they took over a good portion of the gladiator training. The schools were moved into Rome, and there were strict guidelines on how they would be run. Each school had an avid following, and it became part of their identity as to which school they cheered for. Now, let's take this into modern times. This identity here that they get from this. Similar to the gladiator schools of Rome, modern identity politics serve the same role. You got two teams right now. There's always been two, but currently what we've got right now. You got your MAGAs and you got your wokes, right? And these teams have been seen on the news literally battling in the streets. They provide both sides of the mainstream media plenty of fodder to keep everyone mad at everyone else, just so long as they aren't mad at the government. It's not their fault. It's not the government's fault. It's these crazy people's fault. Go fight them. They won't let you protest, and they will fight you in the streets because they're racist or bigots or whatever. And then for the other side, it's don't you protest out there because these people will come and stop you because they're milking the system and they're woke and they want to take your rights. Which, don't get me wrong, they do. And sometimes that's right about these guys. Not always, and not always. But according to the big media, it's always right. It's 100% of the time all it is. It's a big show. They make a bunch of money off of people by using these gladiators, these modern gladiators, to fight each other in the streets. There are thousands of YouTubers dedicated to each side, pointing out how bad they are, all while ignoring the sins of their own. Right? So we've got mainstream media, we've got YouTube channels, and we got each side weaponizing whatever movement is currently popular to use against the other. Oh, and to get more votes and more power. You think any politicians really care about the LGBTQ? Or how many FFLs have been revoked? Or your individual rights? Or how much your food and gas costs? No, they don't care about any of that shit. They don't care about you at all. They care about keeping the people fighting with each other so that they get to stay in power. That's all they care about is the power. They don't care about you. They don't care about the country. They don't care about your kids. They care about themselves, the money they make, and the amount of power they can hold. And that is all they care about. Now, I'm not going to get into which side is right or wrong. We don't do politics here. This is not a political discussion. This is talking about both sides and what they do to control you to keep themselves in power. This is not left wing or right wing. This is about the fucking bird, and the whole bird's bad, and the bird is ruining your life. The MAGAs talk about rights, but Trump literally started the weaponization of executive orders to increase gun control. And he sent the ATF after his own people, and they praised him for it, all over the bump stocks. They were apathetic because they didn't own a bump stock. They had plenty of beer and buffalo wings and were still glowing about their team's win at the Super Bowl or whatever sports bullshit they subscribe to, right? And then the wokes are just as bad. They elected a geriatric child sniffer because anything is better than Trump. And now look at where we are. Our economy's in the shitter. Our rights are being destroyed. And we're the laughingstock of the free world as we find out that his druggy son was pimping him out for money the entire time he was VP. We are the laughingstock of the world. As a drug-addled, middle-aged man was literally selling the vice president of our country to foreign countries for influence. He pimped his father as influence so that he could be rich. And we allowed that shit to happen. And then we elected that VP as the president. Yeah. Not good. But the other side's no better either. So, the government created these two sides intentionally. They keep them pitted against each other intentionally. Like the gladiators of old, they are pitted against each other for the entertainment of the mob. Why is this so important to the ruling class? Because the mob can easily overpower them. All their guards, crush their mansions, and kill them. They can overpower all of it. We are legion. If we ever get our heads out of our asses, we are Legion. We can crush it all, burn it to the ground, and build what's supposed to be there. But I don't know that it'll ever happen. People are too scared, and they're too busy with their bread and circuses. Speaking of bread and circuses, let's look at the sports and entertainment piece, the final piece of this puzzle, right? And that's the distraction that's provided. They already have you fat and lethargic. They already have you hating each other. So it's time to make sure that you're good and distracted. Bring on the sports and the Hollywood movies, meant to keep your brain numb so you don't have time to hate the government. So what's the historical analog to the sports and entertainment industry that we currently have now? That's the Circus Maximus. And what was the sporting spectacle of the time besides the gladiators? Chariot racing. It became the most popular sport in Rome. The chariot races were another way the Roman government kept the people distracted and opposed against themselves instead of focusing on the problems that the ruling class were creating for them. The Circus Maximus was also used as a theater for plays. These plays were extremely popular, and the actors became famous and powerful. So you can see the correlation today between then and now, and how history is repeating itself. We have vastly overpaid sports people, and we have athletes, that's the word I'm looking for, and we have vastly overpaid actors and actresses. They make millions and millions and millions of dollars to play a game for a couple hours or to go act in a movie. Why is that? Why have we allowed that to happen in this country? Well, one, these athletes and actors are making an insane amount of money for a relatively useless skill. Let's look at that, right? This is a relatively useless skill. It doesn't produce anything. It can't feed you. It can't clothe you. It can't do any of that. It's playing a game or pretending to be somebody that you're not. That's all it is. It's entertainment. And yeah, it's nice to be entertained every once in a while, but this country has to be entertained 24/7. They can't, almost nobody can take the time to stop and learn something anymore, or read, or be bothered to work out and eat well and get smarter and learn to fight and be dangerous. They want to sit on their ass. They want to numb their brains with stuff shoved in their face from their TVs and cram beer and buffalo wings down their fucking throats until they're fat and lethargic. Most of the actors and athletes are on the side of big government, and those that aren't are alienated. It's intentional that way. All the people with a big voice, as many as they can get, will be forced to be on the side of the government. And those that can't, they will try to alienate and reduce their power so that all of those that have a large role in speaking to the public, speaking to the masses, will be telling them the same message. The government is good. The government is your friend. Listen to the government. Yeah, we know better. I promise you we know better. The government does not care about you, and the people that tell you that they do are fucking lying. So what are they doing? They use the mainstream media to push sports and entertainment to get people addicted to these outlets. They need as many people as possible distracted and funneling money into the system. So they glorify this at every turn. These people get to be on TV. They get to drive the cool cars. They own the big houses. They have the big mansions and the big yachts and all this stuff. And they show this fake possibility that you too could be like them if you just put in the work or whatever, right? And then they randomly select 10 or 12 people a year like it's a friggin' lottery to go be on a sports team and pay them a bunch of money. Or to be an actor and pay them a bunch of money. But you and me are never going to be one of those. They're never going to give us $1 million to go be on TV. It's just not going to happen. This channel that I'm making is never going to be one of the big selected ones that makes $1 million a year. Why? Because I say the real truth. I don't feed you the bullshit that I'm supposed to be allowed to be popular. And that's okay. I don't need to be popular. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this to build tribes so that when this all comes crashing down, because it will all come crashing down, that you guys have a tribe and know what to do to survive. Because when the rest of them die off in this, when they can't feed themselves and they can't distract themselves from it with a football game anymore, they'll either get with the program or they'll be gone. So, they're using tribalism against you by corrupting and perverting it into a consumer identity. They get you to identify with a sports team or a movie franchise or some other pointless and meaningless thing. These create false connections between you and people all over the world, keeping you separated, docile, and unable to fight against them. What do I mean by that? Well, they don't want you making local connections like I'm telling you to do. They don't want you to build a tribe where you're together and near each other and spend time and learn each other and train to be violent and dangerous together. They want you to have a consumer identity where you're out and you buy a sports team hat and a t-shirt, and the only thing that you really get behind is other people that want to wear the sports team hat and the t-shirt. And you go online and you use the internet and you talk to these people about your sports teams, right? And that's your whole big thing. And I keep saying sports teams, but it could be the people that are into the Marvel movies or the John Wick universe or sports or UFC or whatever it is, right? Because most of the people that you know that do that are going to be way out there. They're not going to be here. So you're not going to have a tribe of people that can come together and do something, because if it all gets shut down, you can't travel to where all these people are. You don't know them for real. You know the identity that they put on the internet, and that's it. You're not spending time learning to be around each other, getting strong and dangerous together. You're spending time sitting at a computer, talking to each other on the internet, being fat and lethargic. And that's exactly what they want. These exercises in mental masturbation, obese men in sports bars, chest bumping because their team won the Mega Bowl and somebody nip slipped during the halftime show, shoveling more greasy fried food down their mouths, wasting their lives away watching someone else do something they think is cool. Nobody fears a fat slob who can't walk across the street without getting winded. So how do we fix the problem? What can we do about this? Well, we have the problem pretty well identified now, so let's talk about what we can do about it. How you can do your part to fix this. You have to start by realizing that it's a problem and that you cannot fix everyone yourself. You have to understand what the problem is. That this is all bred in circuses. It's a machine built to keep you fat, lethargic, and docile, happily distracted, shoving food in your face and never looking at what's going on and never questioning the ruling class because there's something more important to look at. You don't have time to be into politics or to pay attention to what's going on or any of that, because you can watch your sports ball and drink your beer and eat your chicken wings. Okay? That's the problem. That has to stop. Then you find good people and you help them realize the problem too. You can't do that by screaming from the mountaintops how the government is using sports to brainwash mindless drone subjects. Just take your friends to do something other than watch sports, movies, and drink. And if you're going to, do it together, right? Get around the house, spend time together, do some activities where you learn a skill together, and then eat and drink together. You're supposed to have fun together, but it can't be the only thing you ever do. You have to do important things together. Live a mythic life. Go out and do the things that the heroes of the stories that you love do. If somebody were to write the story of your life, would it be something you would want to read? And if not, fucking fix that shit. Live a life worth living. Get off of your ass and do something. Get you and your tribe together to work out. Do fun things together. Go hike. Compete in something. If you're into sports, go and play them instead of watching somebody else do it. If you're not into sports, go do something else instead of watching people on TV do it. Go to a gun range. Learn to shoot a bow. Learn to hike. Work on cars together. Go racing. Do fucking something other than sit on your ass doing nothing, letting the world pass you by. Do this with your tribe. so that you can build these skills together and have them should you ever need them. And know your tribe, love your tribe, understand your tribe, and be able to be in the same vicinity as these people for a really long time. Because if things get really bad, that's who you're going to be around, and you're going to be around them a lot. So you better be comfortable with them. And you better know that you can do that before you need to do that. Now then, go learn to do all the stuff you would watch someone do in a movie. Take a firearms training class together. Take offensive driving classes. Do jiu-jitsu or MMA or boxing. Anything other than sitting on your ass getting drunk. Build a tribe of people you can trust with your life. Then make that tribe so badass that any person or group of people who would be insane enough to mess with it will instantly lose. If you all work together to improve your skills daily, then you'll be fine. Make improving yourselves fun and challenge each other. Create a culture of excellence within your tribe and hold each other to high standards. Make it a competition. Make sure that you and your boys are competing as to who can pick up the heaviest shit, but also who's getting stronger the fastest, right? Some of us may have started before the others, and we can kind of rest on our laurels because we're the strong one in the tribe. But when you compete for advancement and improvement, who's getting the biggest percent stronger, it challenges you too. Even somebody who's not as strong as you can challenge you, right? I have a friend in my tribe right now, and he's kicking my ass leaps and bounds in the amount of gains that he's getting. It drives me nuts. Yeah, I'm still stronger, but he is gaining strength at an astronomical rate compared to me. And yeah, that's part of it in the beginning, but it's still, that's a way that I use his gains to motivate me, to make sure I'm still making gains, that I will always be the strongest. And hopefully one day he beats me at it. Hopefully one day I'm not the strongest, so I can be that hungry again to get it back, right? That's how you do this. And then you build a tribe. You get strong as fuck. You learn to fight really well. You learn to shoot really well. You learn to work together really well. And then people will see that and they will not want to fuck with it. Now, yeah, if they send an entire military unit after you, you're probably still fucked. I don't know. People got away with it in Afghanistan for a really long time. They said we sent our big bad military after them with all the might and power that we had, and the drones and the thermal imaging and the satellites and the crazy weapons from space and everything else, and we still don't own Afghanistan. They still hate us over there. Now they get to hate us with a bunch of our equipment that we left behind. So there's that. I think we could win too if we had to. As a matter of fact, I know we could win too if we had to. And if they make us, we will. So, that's how you fix this. You get off your ass and you start doing something with your tribe, and you stop paying attention to their bread and circuses. Grow your own food. Raise your own animals to eat. Build your own tribe. Do your own things and get skilled. When they no longer have the power to control what you think about, how you eat, and how you live, you're free from their control. And when you're free from their control, that's when you really challenge them. That's when you have the ability to see what they are doing for what it actually is, call them on their bullshit, and go do something about it. And that's where we're going to end off today. So, don't forget about all of our social medias, right? We've got a Facebook, we have a Reddit, we've got a Twitter, we got an Instagram, we have Spotify, Apple Radio, Tumblr, Patreon, YouTube, right? Some of you will be watching this on YouTube. Some of you will be listening to it on the podcast channels. All of you should be joining the social media, taking a look at that stuff, seeing how it's going. See if you can help build a tribe there, right? I'll post all the links to that in the show notes, on both the show notes for the podcast and the show notes for the YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. It helps the channel grow, helps us reach more people. give it a like, thumbs up button, right? Wherever you're at, wherever you're seeing this. And if you feel so inclined, please share. Especially if you think this message is good for somebody you know, share it with them. Maybe they'll want to join the tribe. And maybe they'll grow and learn something from it too. Alright, so in this, we're going to have some show notes with all the links. I'll make sure that, like, any of the stuff that I talked about, like the welfare statistics, the gladiator schools, all that stuff, I'll have links to where that information came from. I'm also going to put some links down here for some training tools for you guys. So we talked about it a bunch. Some stuff you and your tribe can do together. There's this really cool punching bag that's called a bob. Looks like a human. You can also use that for your dry fire, so you're aiming in at a legitimate bad guy looking thing. We'll have some Manus tech for using, resetting triggers and practicing with your firearms so you can visually measure and make sure you're getting better. The Laser Academy to see where your shots are going. Between that and the Manus, it makes a really good dry fire system. Where to get some blue guns, where to get some training knives, where to get a good plate carrier and plates. Your power rack and your barbells and your weights for working out, all this stuff that I've talked about needing, I'll have some links down in the show notes, guys. So take a look. Just to be clear, these are Amazon affiliate links. So if you do purchase one of these things with the link I provide, the show gets a small kickback so that we can buy better, lighting or better cameras or better microphones or whatever to make the show a little bit better for you guys. But I do want you to know that if you use the links I provide, I do get a little bit of a very small percentage kickback from Amazon for selling some shit. So that's one way you can help the show. You can also join our Patreon. Still have a few spots open for the first 10 that I said, and there's still a couple of those left, are going to get private coaching and a free copy of my meal prep book, which will walk you through a month long. There's the entire calendar menu of what to eat when on what day, all the recipes on how to make it, all the shopping lists you need for every week depending on how many people you're cooking for. It's all broken down there. All the food is delicious. Everything is ready. It'll come over in a simple, easy PDF format so that you can print it each time that you need it, including your shopping list and your recipes, and go through it and do all your meal prep. And then I will help customize a workout program for you. We'll make sure that you get strong. We'll make sure that you get fast. We'll make sure that you have endurance so that if the fight comes, when the fight comes, you'll be ready. And I can help you get there. That's over on Patreon. It's only $5 a month, and I'll do that for the first 10 people that join the Patreon. After that, I will stop taking customers for health and fitness, guidance until I get those 10 people well taken care of and on their way. And if I have the bandwidth to do more, then I'll open that back up. You can always be a Patreon, even if you're not getting onto that, but that will be a new tier in the future after these first 10 that you'll have to buy in to get that level of stuff. Other than that, you're just going to get some backstage access, questions answered, one-on-one discussion sessions with me, the ability to chat back and forth and ask questions about stuff will still be there, but it won't be individual coaching like those first 10 are going to get. I will also include in those first 10 firearms instruction and fight training, like hand-to-hand combat, knife training and stuff, as I know how to do all that too. I was a certified martial arts instructor for the Marine Corps, for the MAP program. I was a cage fighter after I got out. I'm well-versed in how to fight hand-to-hand. I'm well-versed and well-trained in how to fight with weapons. So I will help you get your trajectory right on those paths as well. So that's kind of like a personal barbarian life coach to those first 10 people. Like I said, I still got a few spots of that left. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. This is the Modern Barbarian signing off.